Morning all. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak this morning. Fascinated by what we've already heard this morning from Jingyi and Paola and Michael. I'm really going to pick up on a lot of those threads, and the image in front of you is, I would argue, relevant because my reason for being here, apart from introducing the toolkit to you, is that I set about a decarbonisation journey myself 20 years ago, and that's what you can see in front of you. And the reason it's relevant is because the things that we've been talking about were exactly the issues that I faced. Unlike some of you with your expertise, I set about it with, I am the epitome of optimism bias. I decided I was going to do something, and do it I did. And the consequence is what you can see in front of you. We make a profit on energy of £10,000 a year. And we've decarbonised. But what did I do? I moved to that property. It's a small holding on the edge of the Peak District, edge of Sheffield. 18th century building, full of holes in the walls, old oil boiler. Cost a fortune, cold. So did a bit of research. So I did a bit of feasibility. Heat pumps, marvellous. COP 3 or 4 to 1, fantastic. So spent quite a long time digging the trenches with mate. Put it all in myself, ground source heat, set it running, and of course it cost more than the oil that had been used there before. Right. And then realised that in the UK, electricity costs 4 times the price of gas. So I decided I better make some electricity. So very privileged to have 10 acres of ground, and with 2 wind turbines, solar panels. That's how we've addressed all the other things, and rainwater recycling, grow our own food. So Paolo was talking about a huge amount of sort of internal growth there. But the point that I'm making really here at the moment is that was a sort of an act of faith. And having done lots of work on modelling mine energy schemes and other schemes, working with expert modellers, commercial people, of course, you get to that point where, as Jinu was talking about, I think you do the feasibility study, and then you say it doesn't work. And so you don't do anything. And that's where we've been stuck with these sort of obstacles. So it's living and breathing. We've got to do things, I think is my main point. And it's about being resource efficient. So mine energy, we've got an opportunity. So are we on industrial heat recovery? I'm working on the heat network zoning pilot project with Cantor and his team, Sheffield, Stoke, Peterborough, and the AZP as well for Sheffield. And so visited the steelworks there. We've had some data from the Coal Authority on a mine shaft on one of the steel sites for potential storage opportunities. What have we got? Go back to my example. Got wind, sun, ground, make it work. Cities, areas, the resources. Let's make those work. And then all those other benefits come up. But where's the cost calculation in the commercial model? It doesn't exist. Those things are not monetized. And again, it's the sort of thing that Jingyi was talking about on, but we don't factor in all those other costs. We're very good at factoring in the negative, such as the pricing models, but we don't factor in the positive and all of those elements there. And on the social side, the point about respecting the local communities, I have found, talking about Michael's point, I was glad that he sort of took that further and said we want to complicate the model because the modern situation in the old mining areas is very different, absolutely. But that the spirit of mining still lives strongly, and the core place that developed the basis of the toolkit down in Kyra in Bridgend, my goodness me, that's a village at the end of the valley. That lives and breathes its mining heritage, absolutely still. So I got involved in mine work by seeing the opportunity. I was a music teacher in the 1980s, so I lived through the mining strike. We served the communities of Treaton and Orgreave, the famous Battle of Orgreave in 1984, the iconic moment of the mining strike. And seeing the suffering of those communities at that point was very influential on me, and then moving into an understanding of resource efficiency and energy. That's how I started bringing these together, organised the event at the Advanced Manufacturing Park in Sheffield in 2018, which I sort of self-organised, having been working with Jez Crooks and Wayne Handley on trying to sort of grow the mine energy momentum at that point. And then self-funded trip to Heelan, so good friends with Rene, who's going to be speaking later, and Herman, of course, who many of you know, and visiting that project and seeing again how communities can be brought together around exciting projects like this. Moving on. So, Kyra. There's Kyra. There's also Gareth Farr, bending over a borehole in his BGS days. And an interesting situation there as well. That was a pilot borehole. And parties involved in drilling and analysing the outcomes of the borehole, and I won't mention who and what, disagreed about whether that was actually in a flowing a mine working or not, and that caused an awful lot of the delay. So the expertise, the understanding of what we're doing in this field is really important, because if there's disagreements amongst us, a community trying to make something happen, then that doesn't help the movement of the programs, obviously. And ultimately, we were working on a pilot project close to procurement, but the commercial modelling, there we go again, didn't stack up, couldn't press the button. But the opportunity is huge. That's Orgreave Coking Works and the Advanced Manufacturing Park, Research Park in Sheffield now. So that change in circumstances of the mining heritage, and you're going to hear more from the Bochum site. We were involved with the Bochum team in the D2 Grids Interreg project for the last few years, again, including a lot of mine energy examples there. So this is international, that you can make a big change with a mine energy project in a locality. And the community factor, very important too. And there's just an international comparison. This is a moment in time, so we're using one index, which is, I think, it's a Finnish consultancy, and they just put this together. So I've taken it from one point, I think it's February 23. So the numbers aren't right anymore, but the ratios might be. But yeah, there's one of our problems. That relative cost of those energy forms, a real obstacle. So the toolkit. The purpose of the toolkit was really at the back end of the Kyra project, because we didn't make project work. Regen were keen to have some good outcomes out of the program to actually then give some assistance to future projects. So we were commissioned to produce this last year, and it's just gone online. If you go to our website, you find a link to it, or you can go to the Regen website and similarly find a link to it. The target audience is not mostly the people I'm talking to at the moment, actually, with all your expertise. The target audience is mostly people who want to develop a mine energy scheme. They might be a local authority officer, it might be a politician with a view on things, it might be an investor, it might be a developer. What is mine energy? What are the opportunities? What are the challenges? And we've broken it down into sections. For better or worse, it's sort of my style. It's a sort of accumulation of learnings from a huge range of sources, from the private sector, people actually involved in delivering these projects, to a coal authority, BGS, visited UK Geos, really helped by Alison and team on a number of things to do with this. We've accumulated, bottom point, a library, tried to collate a lot of the research work that's been done from people I can see in front of me and others, to draw it into one place to make it a little bit easier to find the information in a more detailed form, because by and large there isn't a detailed there's not a lot of detail from your perspective inside the toolkit, but it's a guideline as a route map to how you might tackle these things and some pointers. So talking to drilling companies, understanding some of the challenges, opportunities that drilling boreholes is. Fraunhofer in Germany, directional drilling. I had a great conversation last night over dinner where it was explained to me how that directional drilling works. I didn't fully understand it, but Florian, who obviously is an expert on that and worked going 800 meters deep in Bochum. Meanwhile, that we've got examples at Lanchester and at Gateshead and so on of the way drilling has been done in the UK for active projects and so on. So some of those learnings hopefully have been captured in the toolkit. And I've created some appendices too, which hopefully are also useful to further understand the background as well. So some of it's very political and some of it's very practical. I was hoping to demonstrate the interactive model that we've developed as part of this. We can't do that for technical reasons. There's the link. Some of you with devices might go and want to give it a go just now and see what you can find. It's on our website, so you can find it at any time. It's a 3D interactive model that includes data that was supplied to us by the Coal Authority for reasons of their data protection and all sorts of things. We couldn't just model it purely and then present that. We're not allowed to under the rules, but we've aggregated the data and manipulated it to create a visual. It's more an indicative way, showing of where the mine opportunities are in the Bridgend area. And we've also integrated some of that with building data information, EPC certificates, to again see what the possible heat loads might be. Cantor's talked to you about the heat networks. As I said, we're working with Cantor and team in cities across the UK on developing the heat network zoning program. And as Cantor said, I didn't go for permissions on these, Cantor, but I think they're on message. But it's a key objective is to make the rationale clear to people on the opportunity for using different sources to grow the heat networks. And it is that's the changer. And that's why the investors are coming in. We're working with some of the investors in Sheffield, for example. Both the incumbent networks are looking to expand because there'll be a requirement to connect under the legislation. Requirement to connect. It's quite I describe it as a revolution. Now, there's some skepticism with people that I was talking with yesterday about whether, how's this going to roll out and play out, because secondary legislation not finished until 2025. But if building owners are required to connect, there's a market there, and the investors believe it because they're coming in big style. So there's an opportunity for all of us to tap into those resources to deliver. And that's the estimated value that is going to be in this heat network rollout. Green Heat Network funds about $500 million. So the relative input, if we're talking capital costs of projects, is relatively modest, shall we say, from the public side. It's committed at the moment, but very important, very, very important. But it's a huge spending profile. And just to finish off, people that can help. Again, pointing this in the direction of the key people that we've talked about. So Nordic Energy, it's not just me. It's a group of people who've got a lot more expertise than I have. But mine is very much about what I did and what I'm doing. So I'm not just talking about it. I'm in that space. Thank you.